Portobello Market has players taking on the roles of stall holders at the world famous Portobello Markets in London. Players are going to want to set up their stalls in the most profitable locations to attract the wealthiest customers. The game involves placing stalls in alleys on the board. Customers are drawn from a bag and placed at the end of the alleys to determine how profitable those alleys will become. The player at the end of the game that has gathered the most profit or victory points will be the winner. Portobello Market is a game for 2 to 4 players. It's recommended for ages 8 and up and has an approximate playtime of only 35 minutes. It's a pretty simple game. It has a bit of strategy involved, a bit of tactical play, a bit of luck and a bit of fun. Let's have a look at how Portobello Market is played. In Portobello Market, each player receives a player's aid, 3 action tokens and some stalls in the player's colour. Here we have the board and the bobby pawn in place. For the purpose of this overview, we'll zoom in and I'll show you a game about midway through. On the board we have the alleys. Each individual spot on an alley is numbered. This number is the value of the stall's location. We have the squares where the customers that are drawn randomly will be placed. And last but not least, we have the bobby on the bobby spot located in the district. Okay, so it's Red's turn. He starts by selecting how many actions he will take. Here Red chooses to take 3 actions. He turns his 3 token over to indicate that it has been used. A player's action token once used will not become available until he has used the remaining face-up ones. After that, they all become available again. So he can now do 3 actions, and there are 2 actions to choose from. He can place a customer for 1 action, and/or place a stall for 1 action. He chooses first to place a customer. He draws a customer from the provider bag and places it on one of the board's squares. He chooses to place this customer at the end of the alley here. With his next action, he chooses to place a stall. A stall must be placed in the district's alley that the bobby is located, so he can select from the 3 alleys here. He must place the stall on the alley's outer locations. If there was already a stall in the alley, like in this alley, he must place his stall next to the existing one. He chooses to place the stall here. For his 3rd and final action, he will place his 2nd stall here, filling this alley. When an alley is full and there is a customer at both ends of the alley is immediately scored. Each player with stalls there adds up the value of the spots occupied. So Red's total is 4. He then multiplies that total by the customer's modifier. The modifiers are printed on the player's aid. So with 1 pink and 1 grey customer, the modifier is times 2. So Red now scores a total of 8 victory points. So if you can only place stalls where the bobby is, how do you move the bobby? This I liked quite a bit. To move the bobby is not considered an action. You can move the bobby at any point during your turn, but at a cost to victory points. To move the bobby here, for example, over the alley with no stalls, this will cost the red player -1 victory point. To move over this alley, where the yellow player has the majority of stalls, will cost red -1 victory point, and the yellow player will receive 1 as well. To move over the location where red has the majority is free. So you'll have to weigh up if it's a good idea to move the bobby, because it will usually lead to a loss of victory points, although at times the reward of moving the bobby can be well worth the cost. The other option a player has instead of doing actions is to score a district. He does this by placing the 4 or 2 action token in the district's centre. He then scores points equal to the number of stalls that he's placed in the district. So here, Red would have 4, and he modifies it according to the number on the action token, so times 4. And Red scores a total of 16 victory points. The downside to this is players can only do this twice in the game, and once a district has been scored, it can't be scored by any other player. Red also will not get back his 4 action token. He will take a replacement from a stockpile which will have a lesser value than 4. That concludes a brief overview, so let's have a look at a few things I noticed whilst playing the game. The colour rulebook is clear for the most part. It has a few illustrations that really assist this game on being an easy one to learn and therefore quite an easy game to teach. I did have a few questions left unanswered, but I did seek guidance in the Board Game Geek rules forum and found the answers there. The rulebook also includes a variant that will remove the random drawing of the customers and will have them laid out along the side, so players will know what customer is coming up next. The components are actually impressive. You'll be getting wooden stalls, thick tokens, and a few shopper meeples and a bag to draw them from. The artwork on the board really gives you a good sense of that English heritage town, and I must say it was that heritage look of the game that first attracted me to it. Replay value, this is where the game falls short for me. Unfortunately, despite the game playing quite well with 2 players, which usually contributes to a game getting a lot of play for me, this game just doesn't hit the table much. For me, it didn't leave much of a memorable experience. There were no feelings created by the gameplay that had me just, really wanting to come back for more and more of it. Now, I would play this game again if someone in my gaming group were particularly interested in giving it a go. After all, look, I do like the theme, the game runs smoothly, it's pretty balanced, and as for gameplay, I was never bored during our games. I was just never taken away by it or excited by anything it had to offer. There were some things that I could appreciate about the game though, otherwise I would have gotten rid of it a long time ago. I like the fact that the penalty for moving the bobby was paid by victory points. Given that the game is about stalls and the markets, I would have thought that the game included some sort of currency like coins or notes, but in this game, victory points are essentially the currency, and when your opponent will gain a direct victory point as a result of one of your decisions, it makes that decision a bit more difficult to make. But when you're on the receiving end, it can be quite fun to watch your opponent make that decision. So I liked how that works, and it works really well in this game. There are plenty of things to take into consideration when making decisions in this game as well, and probably more than you might think. When and where to place stalls, and when placing a customer, where will it benefit you most? They're obvious ones. But things like, will that customer being placed here benefit another player more? Obviously, one customer will interact with several alleys, so you may get some victory points from it, yes, but someone may get more. And when moving the bobby, placing a stall first and leapfrogging away from the location where your opponent really needs the bobby, that's a great decision. That's fun. And as you often your opponent will have to pay victory points to get back to the location that he really needs it. It's probably also worth mentioning that players start with victory points, so it is possible to move the bobby on your first turn. You won't have to accumulate points first. All in all, Portobello Market, it's not one of my favourite games, not because it's a bad game. I can't pinpoint a mechanic or anything that just made me go, oh, forget it, no way. It just doesn't create for me what I enjoy most in a game, which is some sort of memorable moment, or it doesn't create a lot of excitement for me. Thanks for watching, and I hope to see you all again soon.